What is up? What is happening? It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. On a Friday, a game Friday, Arizona Cardinals in town this weekend for week one of a sold-out, star-studded affair at FedEx Field. What a sentence that is. And every part of it is true. First of all, the Cardinals are here. That part's pretty easy. That could have happened in the past. But sold out, that's new. Star-studded, Champ Bailey, the Hall of Famer, coming back. John Riggins coming back. Obviously, Magic Johnson, as part of the ownership group, will be at the stadium. Mitchell Rail sent his plane to Florida to pick up Sonny Jurgensen and Billy Kilmer. It is going to be a who's who that really gets to the heart of what the theme will be this weekend at FedEx Field, which is welcome home. The hype around this game is different, and I am thoroughly excited. Now feels as good a time as any to just admit to the audience something that's a real bummer on a personal level, which is I can no longer go to the game because your boy's sitting at home with the COVID wave having gotten me. So I'm stuck in the house for the weekend and into early next week, which blows because I was looking forward to going to FedEx Field. And that is something that I quite literally thought I would never say again. I was last at FedEx Field in 2019 when I was on the beat. And once I knew by the end of that season that I was not going to be back for another year. It was my choice. And obviously, as people know, like the trajectory my career took, obviously now back with the stations and really happy to be doing this daily show every day. But I just figured, like, you know, I would never, maybe there would be a time where I would go back for something, but I never really planned on wanting to go back. And that's changed now. And I'll tell you right now, like, bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be there for week 3. Like, I want to go to a game, even at that dump, even though the stadium's still FedEx Field, even though it's still going to suck to get there, even though getting home is going to be a disaster. Even with all that stuff, I've just heard for so long what the old RFK used to be. And I know that this is not going to be that. But what's it like to be in a stadium where, to the extent that as a media person I root, the team that I am rooting for is the one that everyone else in the stadium is rooting for because I want them to win because it's just my job's better and easier. It's a different kind of route than a fan, I would say. Certainly, it's completely personal and selfish. But I definitely would like to see the Commanders win every single weekend, and I want to see what that's like in Washington. I grew up in the Carolinas, and my parents were season ticket holders, and I've been to plenty of Panthers games and big ones, and the atmosphere there is good. I didn't grow up too far from Clemson. I've been to a couple of games at Clemson, and the atmosphere there is incredible. College football, obviously provides a kind of a different kind of atmosphere. Been to games at Lane Stadium at Va-Tech, like that's sick. When they play Enter Sandman, the whole deal. But there's something special about when you follow a team every single day. And it's like one thing to experience the atmosphere as a neutral or as someone with some kind of moderate interest. But I think it's, with the level of interest that I obviously have from doing this every day, I'm excited as much as it would be about me if I was able to go, as I was planning to. It's really an excitement for the fans and for the people that I get to interact with on this show and have been as a beat reporter for all those years and as a radio host in this town for now. I mean, this is year 8 for me. A place that I call home in D.C. and don't plan on moving from, probably for the rest of my life. If I have my choice about it, like, we want to be here and raise our family here. Like, this is something that is, personal in that way, that this is for the city. And it's why I've appreciated the way Josh Harris, who is, was born here, of here, the way he's talked about this. This is going to be a celebration of something new. And I think that was one of the lone remaining questions I had. And I feel like I pretty much have it answered, which is, was this going to be a celebration that the old thing was over, or that the new thing is beginning? And it's a blurred line. It's a gray area. It's not black and white. But I do feel like this is as much a celebration of the new thing beginning and many parts of the old thing returning, the pre-Snyder, feelings about the franchise with all these legends coming back, that this is just going to be special. And I think it's, very, very cool that Fox has Mark Schlereth calling the game. And when Stink joined me on Take Command on Wednesday, he talked about how this is not just from like a fan emotional standpoint, but kind of from a like professional football standpoint, a welcome back moment to the NFL for the Washington franchise.
I think it's huge. To me, it's welcome back to the National Football League, Washington Commanders. It was we missed you. It's nice to have you back, and to get the love and just the sense of how important this is to just the Commander faithful, to all the people who were a fan of the Washington football team, the Redskins, and now the Commanders. It's really cool, and there's this feeling for me of the Wizard of Oz. For those of you who don't remember the movie, the old time movie, when Dorothy kills the Wicked Witch of the West, and then all the henchmen of the Wicked Witch of the West line up and just say, "All hail Dorothy." They start marching around, they get all excited about it. And that's how I feel about the demise of Daniel Snyder. Like, everybody is like, thank goodness we get to root for our favorite team again.
And, all hail Josh Harris, because he's the one who dropped the house on the Wicked Witch. I mean, he didn't really. He just he bought the house. The Melanie Coburns and Megan Imberts of the world, or Congress, are kind of the ones that brought down the house, if you will. But Josh Harris bought it, and he's done a good job taking care of it ever since. And so I'm very excited, and it's something that gives juice to the franchise too, internally, like juice to forget the franchise and talking about kind of this larger grand thing. It gives juice to the actual football team. Ron Rivera today was asked about this and what it's going to be like having guys like John Riggins back in the house. Riggins, who, by the way, hated Snyder and wouldn't have been seen anywhere within miles of FedEx Field if he was still the owner.
It would be great to see Riggo. I mean, he's one of the really truly iconic. It'd be great to have all the Hogs back. I mean, those are some very iconic players. These are guys that were here back in the heyday that made made the name for this organization. And if you look at it, that period from the 80s all the way to the early 90s, that was the peak of Washington football. And we would love to have that type of excitement and the type of environment around here, and it would be really cool to be able to see those guys, come by and just show the guys kind of what it means.
I think, first of all, the only way to get that to continue in the long term is to win. The reason those guys are so celebrated is because they won. Straight up. Obviously, Cooley, Portis, Santana, those guys are celebrated because they're the best that's been had in the last 25 years of the team. And I certainly hope that a guy like Trent Williams can come back one day and feel that same love. But at the end of the day, they're not revered in the way that Art Monk is revered in the way that, the Hogs are revered in the way that, B. Mitch is revered, because these guys are multiple-time Super Bowl champions, and there's just nothing like that. And one thing that I think feels different to me, as someone who, again, admittedly was not around, I wasn't alive for some of those Super Bowl victories. Nevertheless, an active fan living in the area, or even like a 4-year-old fan living in the area. So I'm not pretending to put myself in the shoes of so many of you listening. But when I got here in 2015 and they'd march some of those old players out, and it was always awkward because it felt cheap, because everything this organization did felt cheap. And there was the obvious, like, hey, there's a lot of important people missing. What's up? Oh, man, they really don't like this guy. And, like, if you follow the league, you knew it wasn't surprising. But it was obvious. And now to see everyone coming back, to see the holes filled in, and to see everything done right, it feels like this is appropriate. And the reverence is there at a level that it should be for legends in this game of this magnitude. We can talk about what it means for them to win on Sunday, and we will. We'll talk more about the game next, but in some ways you can't lose. They've already won. because this ownership group has almost instantly taken such tremendous steps to truly restore the glory of what was a once proud franchise and now very much can be again. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, you'll hear more from Ron Rivera on the game itself and a status update on Chase Young. That is next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on both the YouTube and Twitter on the Team 980's accounts on each site. So check us out there. Just housekeeping real quick, as I mentioned in passing in the open, your boys got the Rona, which just sucks. Definitely explains the coughing fit yesterday. Hopefully, I tested negative before I came in yesterday, so hopefully I contained it to my own self. But unfortunately, it means I'm going to be out for the pregame on Sunday. Thankfully, we are leaving you in very capable hands. Denton Day will be live with Logan Paulson at MGM Sportsbook, or at the MGM National Harbor at Tap Sports Bar. So go hang out with Denton and Logan. Unfortunately, though, it does mean that we won't be streaming on the video side of things. So check that out on the radio, on the free Odyssey app, on the audio side, and then we'll get the full video production going the following weekend when I'm back with Logan at Tap. That'll be a 1 o'clock start, as that is a 4 o'clock game. Week 2 for the Broncos. So that actually be really fun because we will be out there and get to watch all the 1 o'clock games as we kind of prepare for the show and then ultimately do the show and then prepare for the 4 o'clock kick for the Commanders. So come hang out with us, Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor for the Take Command pregame show. I will do the postgame podcast with Logan from the very safe and isolated room that I am in right now. So that's your programming update for everything coming up this weekend. Of course, all that around Cardinals and Commanders. Sunday, 1 p.m., FedEx Field. Adam Amin will be on the call on Fox. He joins us coming up at 5 p.m. live. And this Arizona team, a little bit better than I think people realize. Logan and I were talking on the phone actually yesterday, and he's like, dude, the more I watch Arizona, the more impressed I am. I don't know how much talent they have. A bunch of guys actually look better than maybe their reputations are, and they definitely play faster and play with more structure and more discipline than I think people give them credit for. And I think what's happened is people saw the Jonathan Gannon behind the scenes pregame speech video of I want guys who take the bus to work or whatever nonsense that was. And they just think the guy's a total clown who doesn't have the ear of his players at all. And I'm not entirely convinced that that's the case. I think this team is going to be feisty and competitive. They run NFL stuff. Drew Petzing is a guy that I actually liked as a potential OC candidate here. He wound up going there. But was with Stefanski in Cleveland, and they run kind of an offshoot of what Kyle Shanahan does. A lot of running the football, a lot of play action. They play physical, and they've got real speed on the outside. Rondale Moore is dangerous. If you're not sure tackling, or if you're not sure-handed in your tackling on the back end, and you let Rondale Moore loose, he will score on you. Marquise Brown, not healthy very often, not exactly a super varied receiver, but incredibly dangerous. Big plays, this is what this offense is built for. And so this is not a walkover. And as excited as I am about the atmosphere and what Sunday could be, if you think this is just going to be high school or college homecoming where you've got directional State Tech University coming to town so you can win 70-0, that ain't it. The Arizona Cardinals are a professional football team. And Ron Rivera, of course, knows that. Here's Rivera with some extended thoughts in Arizona from his press conference today.
I think they're a good young football team. They've got some quality young players in some key spots. I think they've got a good scheme offensively, defensively, and special teams. I think their coaches are guys that have been around success. I mean, Jonathan Gannon coming from Philadelphia, being around that group, and then coming here and bringing his defense, his style of defense. His defensive coordinator was his linebacker coach. Offensively, the coordinators coming from Minnesota through Cleveland to Arizona. So he's been with Coach Stefanski, and I got a lot of respect for the way Coach Stefanski does things and that running game that they have. So you see a lot of those things being emulated there. There is every now and then you see something that Philadelphia did on the offensive side. And then special teams, Coach Rogers is a guy that's been in this league a while. So they've got a good coaching staff, and as I said, they got a lot of good young, hungry players. On the defensive side, Budda Baker, I think, is one of the really good safeties in this league, and he's an emotional leader for their defense and for their team, for that matter. So, I think their quarterback situation, I like both their quarterbacks, even though one of them's just a rookie. I thought, we liked him and him coming out from Houston. He throws a nice football. And then Dobbs is a smart, athletic quarterback with a good arm, an NFL arm, and you saw that. We saw that in the preseason. So, we're not taking this team lightly. This team, they're paid like everybody else. They want to win. They're coming here to win. So we got to be on our game.
They do. Now, if they are, they should win. Don't get it twisted. Washington's a better football team, but they've got some young guys that'll fly around defensively and make this hard. And I do think, there is the week one-ness of this, which is, schematically, like the structure of what Gannon wants to do defensively and what Petzing wants to do offensively. But how does it look with this personnel group? And you don't even have preseason tape on anything they did with Dobbs, because Dobbs was in Cleveland for the preseason and he's the presumed starter. And I think the other difference, and this is, if you want to put it in like the nerve-wracking category for Washington, I think that Gannon and company on defense will be more aggressive, a.k.a. blitz a little bit more, than they did in Philadelphia. Like, their D-line and their secondary were so good in Philly. You could rush for and trust the back end, and you were going to get home because they had such good rushers, and you could put, clamps on even great receivers with Bradbury and Slay at the cornerback spot, not to mention they were good at safety. I mean, they were good everywhere. It's why they made the Super Bowl and were one of the best teams in the league last year, and certainly look to be, from a talent standpoint, there again. Arizona doesn't have those horses. If they've got bigger weaknesses, perhaps their defensive front. I don't know they have like a stud. Zaven Collins is a former first rounder, but he's played a lot of inside backer, and now that he's shifted outside, so we'll see, how he is. And then obviously they've got Budda on the back end, and their corners are feisty, but I don't know that they're good. They're certainly not as good as Bradbury and Slay. So a lot of unknown there, but what do you do in that situation? Well, you try to heat it up a little bit and make the offense operate a little bit out of their comfort zone a little bit faster. And we know in the preseason, picking up blitzes and making sure the protection was set right and all that stuff was the kind of one area that Sam Howell struggled with. So that is definitively a worry for me on Sunday. I still think Washington should win. I think defensively, if you don't give up any explosive plays, Dobbs or Tune are not good enough to beat you consistently, and neither is that offensive line. Like, they're fine. They're not bad. They're fine. Skill position-wise, like, you got to have a quarterback who sets those guys up to succeed, but they're dangerous. And then, obviously, James Conner as a running back is really good. But do they have the horses to block up front, especially a Commanders D-line, if John Allen is going to play, which it looks like he is. He's not even listed on the injury report. Daron Payne, Montez Sweat. We'll see about Chase. We'll get to that later on the show. But, yeah, I mean, as long as you don't give up explosive plays, that offense is going to peter out, even if they get a couple of first downs. And then defensively, can you get a couple of big plays? And I do think the Commanders can be good enough to wear down a couple of long drives on Arizona because they not have the talent, but can you not beat yourself? And that's the key when you're the better team. Like, there will be games this year where Washington's going to have to take risks and they're going to have to try some things. This one, they are the more talented team. They should win, but it is absolutely not going to be a pushover when we watch from FedEx Field on Sunday. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, more thoughts on this game. We dive into one side of that matchup with Logan Paulson. Take Command Friday here on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Take Command pregame show will be Sunday, 10 a.m. Bummed I won't be able to make it, but make sure you go hang out with Denton Day, subbing in for me, and Logan Paulson at Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor. And then I'll be back next Sunday as the Commanders prepare for the Broncos. But the podcast, obviously we got all that in this week, and we'll have our post-game pod, which will be live streamed Sunday night, probably around 7:30 once Logan gets done with his other post-game responsibilities. So make sure you're subscribed to the Team 980 and 106.7 The Fan on YouTube to watch that live, or just obviously subscribe to the podcast and get it when the audio comes out the next morning. But on this week's preview pod, we obviously got into the Cardinals defense versus the Commanders offense. And to start, we actually started the other way around. Cardinals offense and Commanders defense, and wanted to give that to you here on the radio show. So without further ado, a little Take Command Friday preview style here on the Hoffman Show. We got a game to talk about.
Let's talk about it.
It is a game against the Arizona Cardinals, which is going to be the easiest game on any team's schedule, theoretically, all year long, any team that's facing Arizona. That said, it's the NFL. These are pros. When you look at the Cardinals offense and this Commanders defense, which has incredibly high hopes, like, what do you think you're going to see in year one with a whole new scheme? And, we obviously know Jonathan Gannon is probably going to do some similar stuff to what he did in Philadelphia defensively, but what do we think this offense looks like with, by the way, a quarterback who got no reps, no matter who it is, got basically no first-team reps all spring and summer long?
Yeah, I think this is going to be really interesting. And so let's just talk about high level, like what kind of offense do I think they're going to be running? And I think when you look at the offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, he is a guy that comes directly from Cleveland. He was the quarterback coach there. He's now the OC here. And when you look at Cleveland, I think they are a very in the mold of what I would call like a Kyle Shanahan offense. And that's, I'm using that as kind of a colloquial term for this offense that is heavy play action, heavy rushing attack. They do have some kind of innovative stuff they do from a drop back passing standpoint, but they, in a perfect world, they wouldn't want to live in it. And I think when you look at the way that the Arizona roster is constructed, I think it fits that mold. And when you look at the preseason game, I was able to watch the first preseason game and some of the second. I think you see flavors of that already. So some flavors that kind of to be aware of is you're going to see multiple different personnel groupings. You're going to see 22. You're going to see 13. You're going to see 11. You're going to see all of these different kind of allocations of personnel. And I do think when you look historically at this Commanders defense, I don't want to say they've struggled, but they haven't played well against that Cleveland rushing attack. And we've talked about this a little bit before. They do, and this might be a Callahan thing, so it'll be really interesting to see if the run game coordinator carries some of these concepts over. But like they run a lot of what I call bounce or big bounce, or like it's basically outside zone where, like, let's say I've got a 3 technique. I'm playing over the outside shoulder of the guard. I'm going to get a down block from the tackle, and then that guard is going to pull and run to the perimeter as kind of like a fullback, so to speak.
So it's a little bit of a twist on like a pin pull concept.
A little bit of a twist on a pin pull concept, and
it's just taking it inside. A lot of times pin pull is like, you have your receiver come down from the slot or a tight end, kind of do that pin, but it's kind of taking that same, like, and like a cousin, call it a second cousin of like a trap play where you're kind of using some of the defense's aggression and what they're trying to do against them.
Yeah, so like in a true outside zone, I would be, let's say I'm the tight end. Let's just take that. I'm working a 6 technique.
Hey, you relax there.
Everyone calm down. Everyone calm down.
Why would you do that?
And I'm working a combination on a 6. I can work an outside zone combination where I'm taking the outside half, the tackle's taking the inside half, and I'm working the linebacker. Sometimes it's cleaner just for me to block down on the 6 and the tackle to pull around. We're going to the same guys, but it just changes the front. And so what I will say, when you look at Cleveland, and I think, fans remember in the first Cleveland game, they had that really long run to Elijah Moore. Does that sound correct? Elijah Moore. It was like a 30-yard gain. That sounds right. We're going to go with that until Craig figures it out. But
I've already flushed the Browns preseason depth chart from my memory, but I'll look it up real quick.
So they run a pin, a pull, and they pull the front side guard and the back side guard, or they'll pull the front side guard, the center, and maybe even the backside tackle. And what that does, I think that's really challenging, is it adds gaps to the front side of the run in the run game, which can be really challenging for guys to fit. So when you look at the first preseason game, Cody Barton misfits that run. When you look at the preseason game last year, Nick Chubb has a huge run. I want to say it's like the 15th play of the game on a scheme that we're describing, right? And again, it's not like this is like a really crazy novel scheme, but you just don't see a lot of people running it this way anymore, right? And so I think that's something that, again, I would kind of be aware of. Also, a big feature of that offense is the quarterback has to be really smart in terms of, which direction do we want the run to go? Because when you're running these pin-pull schemes, you want to run them into very specific looks. You don't want to run them into just kind of generic, like whatever the defense is lined up in. We're trying to attack spacing in the defense to give our guys the best opportunity to succeed. So when I look at Drew Petzing, I think they didn't show a lot in the preseason. They showed a lot of kind of your traditional, hey, we're running inside zone with a fullback. We're running a little bit of outside zone. We're running power, running counter. Like those, to me, are like the most basic runs you're going to see. I think they've probably got something in the bag, and I'm sure Petzing watched the first preseason game. I'm sure he's watching that game from week 17 last year and saying, what hurt them? And I'm sure Jack is doing the same thing. So, but I would say like just as like a high-level thing, those kind of unique rushes, the runs, the gap schemes, the counters, all that kind of stuff, just be aware of that as a fan when you're watching. Because, again, like this team is very, very talented, but it does challenge some of your rules in terms of how you're fitting stuff. So I think just kind of be aware of that. Also, heavy play action, heavy keeper. So keeper is a little bit different than play action for me. Play action is when I sell the run, but I'm kind of setting up behind the offensive line in a pocket, right? They do that quite a bit, and that's where in the game last year you saw a couple explosive plays happen on that, specifically the last touchdown where, Cam and Forrest, or Cam's not even playing, but Forrest doesn't rotate on the crosser and it ends up being a touchdown. I think I don't remember who the touchdown was. Doesn't matter. So, but that's a big part. And then also keeper, where I'm selling the run, but I'm vacating the pocket away from the direction of the run, where the quarterback becomes a runner and then usually has a 3-level throw in front of him. And so the thing I want to call attention to is in both of those situations, the position that's going to be really, really stressed is the linebackers. The linebackers, the nickel, like those guys in that underneath coverage are going to have a heavy, heavy challenge in terms of where they fit the run, these unusual runs, where they fit in terms of pass concept, and then how they match some of these deeper play action concepts.
That's interesting because that Cleveland game, obviously, I think we all think of the other side of the ball, but there's some definite frustration because of what happened with Wentz and the poor performance of the offense last year. But there were definitely some big plays last year. And you do have to wonder, right, with Petzing being the quarterback's coach, like how much of that run game does translate because Callahan is so in charge of it in Cleveland. But, right, absolutely. Sometimes, sometimes passing game coordinators are really weird about some of their stuff where they're like, no, I do not want to do the running game thing. And, you wind up with a mismatched offense. There's that happened here while Callahan was here, in fact, multiple times. But that's definitely interesting that the linebackers will be so stressed. Now, it's, of course, worth mentioning that, if John Allen just beats someone inside, linebackers aren't going to get stressed because he's going to be in the backfield. The defensive line can always, I don't want to say cover for, but always blow up any individual play, and everything else is rendered moot. So you certainly want to hope that Allen, one, is healthy and ready to go as he's continuing to battle that plantar fasciitis. We're recording this at a little after noon on Wednesday, so we haven't actually seen the injury report yet. But with Allen battling that plantar fasciitis, can he stay healthy? Can he stay out there? But obviously Payne, Sweat is such a good run player. We'll see how effective those guys can be. But if the linebackers are stressed, I think that's a nerve-wracking thing for Commanders fans because Barton did not have the greatest preseason. Jamin was getting up to speed. It feels like he got there by the end. But then also I think it matters how the secondary is deployed. Like who's going to be in that nickel spot, whether it's Buffalo or regular nickel. Or is Khaleke Hudson out there? Like, do they play a little bit more base? I think the good news is there's options. The bad news is I don't know that any of them make you go, oh, cool, problem solved.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, like when you're talking about like coordinators, like we're kind of projecting what they're going to do. The O-line coach, by the way, is Clayton Adams. He was in Indianapolis. They don't do as much of that pin pull kind of oddness as they do, but it was because they have Quentin Nelson. They're going to use his skill set as much as they can. They do pull him quite a bit. So it is in his background, but not with the same level of detail that it is with Bill Callahan, as an example.
Sure.
But so I will say that, like, one of the things about scheme and translating it is like offensive personnel, right? And so when you look at Arizona, you say, like you mentioned, Clayton Tune, Josh Dobbs. I personally think Josh Dobbs will probably start again. We're recording this on Wednesday.
Yeah, you'd have to think, but
right.
Then again, who knows? Jonathan Gannon seems to be a bit of a wild card out there.
He's doing a wacky bit every day of his life. But so what I would say is that, like, where does this team's strength lie? And then to me, what I'm thinking is, like, obviously we mentioned linebackers are going to struggle, but if I'm this coach and I'm a defensive-minded head coach, you better believe I'm going to run the heck out of the football, right? And I'm going to make you stop the run. And then that's going to lead to some of this keeper play action stuff. But hopefully the offensive playbook is so restricted by the personnel at the quarterback position. Now, that's not been the report since Josh Dobbs has got there. He's been in Cleveland's system now for the entire offseason. He knows the system very well. So I would expect there to be maybe not such a steep learning curve, but I would expect it to be a relatively simplistic game plan, as far as that goes, which, again, is going to help the linebackers and the defense and the secondary kind of find their role. And I'm not saying that I don't think either one of us think Arizona is going to win this game, but I do think that this is a very challenging first game of the year, like in the sense that it's a new staff, new personnel, lots of question marks about what they're going to be. And there's like this existing history or this existing precedent of the schemes that are coming in giving you problems in the past. So it's like, how much of that are they going to do? Can they do a lot of it? Are we going to over prep the wrong stuff? Or, are we going to
This is week one, though.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know.
But I think also, like, for most teams, like when you're playing Philly, for example, like if we were playing Philly week one, it's like, we know what they're going to do. They're going to run some RPO. They're going to put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hand. He's going to hurt you as a runner. They're going to be great on fourth down, right? That's who they are. And I think now, not so much. Like, it's a little bit more of a question, again, because you're kind of bringing in different philosophies. I told you what I think is going to happen. If I was them, I'd say, let's look at that Cleveland game. What hurt them? Let's run those runs. Let's look at the Cleveland preseason game. What hurt them? Let's run those runs. And then let the chips fall where they may, kind of thing. And again, like, that would be my approach. I don't know if I'm the smartest OC in the world, but I know traditionally play action pass hurts this team and that unusual run scheme. So why not lean into that, especially when you're a team who's like kind of undermatched, it would be my thought.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, Elijah Moore checks out. Good memory there. It was an 18-yard run. Just figure since we kind of circle back and confirm there. I think if I'm Jack, though, I'm like, all right, go ahead. I think the biggest thing for this team is do not give up explosives. Like,
100%.
If the Arizona Cardinals are going to beat you with 5 15-play drives, then go ahead. Be our guest. We do not think that you are good enough from a personnel standpoint to do that. And we think we are better from a personnel standpoint. So the greater the sample size of plays, the better chance that something wacky isn't going to happen, that, eventually it will regress to the mean, if you will. And the average of the two sides here is advantage Commanders defense compared to the Cardinals offense. They've got 100%. Some good personnel, like Marquise Brown. Like, don't lose him. You want to give up an explosive, let Hollywood just run free. They've got a couple of guys that
Michael
can hurt
Wilson is their third-round pick. He's been awesome in the preseason. Like a rookie receiver, but there's been a precedent of rookie receivers doing well. I think he can be something good. I don't think he's quite there yet. I liked him a lot coming out. He's a good route runner, physical to catch point, big body guy. But again, is he a guy that you're scared of? I don't know. Rondell Moore is an interesting one. Again, kind of in that that Cleveland option because he's explosive. He runs a 4.2, but he's not been overly productive coming off an injury last year. The O-line to me is kind of interesting because you got DJ Humphries at left tackle, who's a good player but not a great player. Elijah Wilkinson at guard, good, not great. Holdit. I don't even know how to say his name. Holdit. That's my best shot. So good luck to you. Folded.
Holt. Where's what I'm going to go with?
Okay. Yeah. He was the backup to start. They had an injury. He's starting now, right? So Will Hernandez, who was a former first round pick, really kind of poor career in New York, kind of revitalized last year. And then obviously Paris Johnson, who's the first, their 6th pick overall in the draft this year.
Welcome to the NFL, kid. Here's Montez Sweat.
And I will say this about him, as I think Paris Johnson is going to be an excellent pro, but I do think he has a hard time with good power rushers. And Montez Sweat is an excellent power rusher with excellent length. And
actually, Montez has been lining up, I feel like, more over left tackle.
In training camp, he's been on the right side more, because his matchup's been Wiley, and Chase has been on the left.
Yeah, that's right.
More.
That's right.
Yeah, because you got to switch it. Offense, defensive, right, all that kind of stuff. But
was he close to us? Was he away from us? It's been 2.5 weeks, Logan. It's too much time.
It's too much time. So, but I do think that, again, I think that group is going to be better than the sum of its parts. But like you're going up against, Allen, Payne, Sweat, maybe Chase. But even if like James or whoever's playing, like that's going to be a matchup that favors the Commanders 100%. And especially if a rookie quarterback's starting, like that dude holds the ball forever. You know what I mean? Like you watch his film in college, like he holds the ball. He's looking for the big play. That's why I don't think he's going to start. That's why I think you go Josh Dobbs. But it's not like they don't have anybody because it's an NFL roster. But they definitely seem to have prioritized something different in terms of their offseason approach. And it seems like they're projecting for 2024 where they're going to have a ton of draft capital. So.
Well, that's the thing is not only do they have their pick, which very, very easily could be number 1 overall based off kind of how they're approaching the season, but they also have Houston's pick. So they could have the top 2 picks in a loaded draft.
And then they're probably going to trade, I would assume, Kyler Murray for probably 2 firsts. And then all of a sudden you have a roadmap that looks very similar to what Philly did. When was that? When they traded Carson Wentz. So 3 years ago, accrue a lot of draft capital, and you're going to be a much better football team in 2024. So
maybe Jonathan Gannon's pregame speeches will be better by then too.
Maybe who knows? I was never a big guy. I was never a guy who got too up or down with a pregame speech from a coach.
You never just had one where you looked at a coach and you're like, that was a wacky.
Oh, always, dude. Like the coaches, because like they got to give a bunch of them. Every team meeting that's like kind of like one of those talks a little bit, especially if they're trying to motivate or whatever. And I always appreciated the coaches where they were like, "You guys are grown men. Like, y'all know what we got to do. Go get dinner." And you're like, "Nice. I like this.
Sweet.
This is what I want." And then because it's like the motivational stuff, like early in the week, I'm like, who cares? Like we're not playing until Sunday. So I was always really anti wacky bits. Fox, I don't remember any of them specifically, but I remember being a couple of his meetings just being like, what are we talking about? Like, why is this relevant to what we're doing? And people just looking around the room just like, what? So, but and I feel for him because again, you got to do a bunch of them. So, but I'm like,
but you don't. That's the thing.
You don't have.
You could just do the meeting. Hey guys, we're here's the game plan.
Yep.
Hope you came with your very nicely, handsomely paid job prepared to work today. You don't need a speech to get going.
That's
thanks for
100% right. 100% right. I'm with you 100% on that. So, yeah, coaches giving weird speeches, not the first time, won't be the last. I think it's just knowing, hey man, maybe this isn't my leadership style.
And my favorite part about all this is that the Cardinals are the ones that put it out. And it's like it's in their like YouTube, like y'all have Command Center, which not Command Center, Commander's Log, which is great. The team does a fantastic job. Both the Commanders like as a whole and the team specifically that works on that. You would know all the names, so shout out to all those
Joe
folks.
Pallas
they do
and Nicholas and everybody. Yeah, they do.
Shout out to everyone who does that. The Cardinals team was like, we look at what we got, and the internet was like, oh, really?
Wow, yeah,
cool. And in related news, the Cardinals offense doesn't appear to be that much better, but it's week 1, so who knows? We'll see. All right, that from Take Command, which you can subscribe to now. We are officially in our 3 times a week rhythm, so a post-game pod coming to you live on Sunday on the Team 980 and 106.7 The Fan's YouTube page. Actually, we might just do that one on the Fan. I can't keep all our live streams straight. Just subscribe to both, and then when the alert pops up or you're watching on your smart TV, click on the one that's live. Do that. So that'll be there, and subscribe to the podcast if you would like to listen in full, and that will be available as well. Let's see. Beyond that, Take Him In pregame show again. Denton will be in for me on Sunday with Logan. Go check him out at Tap Sports Bar at MGM National Harbor. Still to come on the show today, Damon Amendolara is back with us, so we will Have DA on late in the show at 6:30. Talk a little bit about what happened last night. We will also talk with Adam Amin at the top of the hour, who's on the call with Mark Schlereth. Since we don't really have time for what's trending with the longer take command segment, we can tell you that the U.S. Open semifinals are happening right now. Ben Shelton, the 20-year-old American who has kind of crashed the semis here as a unranked in the tournament, 47th in the world, with the top 3 seeds otherwise. He is down 2 sets to none against Novak Djokovic, who took the first 2 sets 6-3, 6-2. Djokovic leading, already up a break, 2-1, and serving in the third set. Anthony, any other housekeeping to do here before we get to Adam at the top of the hour? We got a pick 6 coming later in the show.
We do have pick 6. We also have our picks from
around
the league.
That's true. We go around the NFL. We never picked last night, did we?
I picked the Lions. I don't know if you ever gave a pick, but I think it shouldn't count, but I think you would have gone with the Chiefs. I was going to go with the Lions.
I don't know that I would have, actually, which is a lot easier for me to say now. I had a bad feeling for Kansas City about last night.
I mean, they should have won the game.
Yeah, if their wide receivers could catch.
Kadarius Toney was out there point shaving, man.
Like, did you see the picture of the ball in his hands that was like, this was a pick 6?
Yeah.
Wild.
Did you see this? Everyone that's not on the stream won't be able to see it. But did you see this?
No, that's hilarious. It's a player of the game graphic with Lions stuff and Kadarius Toney in the middle.
That is hilarious.
That's really funny.
They should have won that game.
They absolutely should have. So no Thursday night pick. Clean slate going into Sunday.
Okay.
We will pick the games coming up at 5:30, which will be the time that we do that this season. All right, Adam Amin's next, though, on the Hoffman Show. Team 980, always live as well on the free, he said, Odyssey app. How nervous were you to interview Josh Harris?
Dude, that's a really funny story. Like, he's sitting in the front row. And I was like, man, should we try to get him? And so I just went up and I was like, hey, man, I know the security guard that was with him. Like, it's good to know security guards. And he was like, yeah, man. Like, hey, Josh, this is Logan Paulson. He works for the team. He was like, hey, Josh, really nice to meet you. Would you mind doing like a 2-question interview at halftime? And then he goes, just keep it general, and yeah, no problem. He was so kind and generous with his time, and like, it was great.
And I thought it was so great that he was just like, no, I'm going to sit right there. I'm going to get kind of a feel of the sidelines. But especially when it's raining, like, I thought it was great that he was on the sideline.
Again, as a former player, it felt really cool in the rain to see him hanging out, him and his boy. I got a ton of respect for that. And, he was great in the interview, really accommodating. So thank you, Mr. Josh Harris. But yeah, man, I was a little nervous.
As someone who was on the Washington beat in 2019 when Josh Johnson came in and finished that season, I cannot believe Josh Johnson is still in the league playing for yet another team. I think he's played for all of them. That'd actually be fun. Can he try to play for every single team? He's going to need a couple midseason trades. But
he's close.
He's closer than he should be.
Because how old is he? How old is Josh Johnson?
I don't know. Here, we're going to look this up. This is always my favorite radio, but we're going to look this up because
he's
the
37.
world deserves to know. He's
37. That's older than I thought.
And that's the thing. He was like in his 30s when he showed up and Jay Gruden was like, I don't know, we're going to let Josh run around in 2019. And he's played for literally 14 NFL teams.
Wow. Even if he gets half, even if we can get just 2 more in his career,
that'd be great.
Get half, to say that he played for half the league, because at that point, you got to think of the man cave, right? You have your name on a game-worn jersey for 16 different teams.
Well, and that doesn't count the other leagues he's played in. Like, I don't know what league the Sacramento Mountain Lions are in. Apparently an American football, it's the American football team based in Sacramento, United Football League. But he played for him in 2012. He also played for the Los Angeles Wildcats. Who can forget of the kind of original XFL 2.0? If the current one's 3.0 and the one with He Hate Me back in the day was 1.0. He played the San Diego Fleet in the Alliance. Remember the Alliance?
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in that league.
So he's played for like 17 teams, 14 NFL teams, and counting. Clearly, if there's one of those 2 guys gets midseason traded, it's going to be Josh Johnson, because that's what happens to Josh Johnson.
This is a work of art. This whole, he's played for the Niners 4 times: 2012, 2014, 2020, and then 2022. He's played for the Niners.
I think on your show, I was going to do this to you, but I decided that we didn't really have the time to do it properly. You on your show, just randomly, you should just quiz your co-host and be like, did Josh Johnson play for this team?
Oh, that's actually a great bit. That's a great bit. If we start that bit, I will give you full credit for it, but this is a great bit.
Excellent. That's all I need. All right. If you need me to come guest host it, I will buy a tiny microphone off Amazon and plug it in and everything. And we did, basically a year ago, as Adam Amin was on the call for the Commanders, I believe, Week 2 game last year. And lo and behold, Adam is back on the call for Week 1 this year, and he gets us going on this Friday. Hour number 2 is time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in, Not My Beat.
Adam and Mark Schlereth on the call for Fox Sports Sunday at FedEx Field. Hello, my friend.
What's going on, Pally?
I'm hanging in there. You know what's up. The audience knows what's up. I'm just here in my little isolation room. Sad that I won't be able to come hang out with you guys on Sunday. But you got a heck of an atmosphere you're walking into, dude.
I was trying to pinpoint this. Maybe like when was the last time? And you probably can't truly quantify or qualify this, but like when was the last time a home opener at FedEx Field was sold out and you knew it was going to be more Commanders fans than a road team fans? Like it feels like it's been 10 years, something like that.
My guess is 2013, and that is based off the fact that they would have been coming off the 2012 season. Obviously, there was the all-in for Week 1 campaign that turned out to be a disaster. Also, Jason Wright said that was his best guess, and he's got access to whatever terrible bookkeeping was being done at the time. But, I mean, it's been a long, long time. I mean, Adam, I covered the team on the beat and was at every game from 2015 basically to 2019, and I can't count, or I can't remember ever really having a truly sold out game with nothing but burgundy and gold in the stands. This is the first time in basically a generation.
Yeah, 2013 seems right. I talked to Bram Weinstein earlier today too, and he was kind of going, he had talked to some people about it as well. And that would have been RG3's second season, right? 2013, yep. After he had that phenomenal rookie year. And you said at the campaign, like, think about that. For the first time in 10 years, you mentioned it. We had the Philadelphia game Week 3 last year. I had the Week 7 game against Green Bay. Both of those games, there were clearly more Eagles and Packers fans than Commanders fans. We did the Atlanta game Week 12, which they were playing a little bit better at that point, so I could see, maybe a more even percentage. And then Week 17, the buzz just wasn't there for a team that, was still in playoff contention. And then, of course, later that day, found out that they were no longer in playoff contention after that loss. But, like, it's exciting. You know this. I live in Chicago. I do the Bears preseason games. There's a buzz around the Bears right now, too, because they have a quarterback that they have faith in, whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's a young quarterback that they have faith in, and they've put better personnel around that quarterback. They have a coaching staff that they root for, that they like, that they have expectations for now. And there's a buzz around the fan base, and expectations for wins is higher. I think that's the same case here, and that's what I felt when I walked into Ron Rivera's meeting today. That's what I felt when we were at practice, and there was a little bit of a bounce in the step of a lot of these guys that frankly, we didn't see when we came around the 2, 3, 4 times last season to check out what the Commanders were all about. So I'm thrilled that this is the situation that we get a chance to experience. If you're going to come to DC, if you're going to come to a Commanders game, it feels like this is the one where you really have a good buzz to work off of.
No doubt. Adam Amin, Fox Sports, is with us. Let me ask you this before we get into the game itself and whatever Ron did or didn't tell you about the football. But, like, you said you live in Chicago. Like, there's a buzz around the Bears. You go to Chicago, there's signage everywhere. Like, you can tell, like, oh, the Bears play in this town. You go to NFL cities 17 weeks a year, 18 weeks a year. When you get to most towns, like, can you tell, and this sounds very silly, but, like, can you tell that the football team is the biggest thing there? Because I think here in Washington, that hasn't necessarily been the case over the last last 7 years, since like 2015, 2017-ish, depending on which metric we're talking about. But, like, the gas stations have the signage, the billboards, all that kind of stuff. And I'm curious, like, how many NFL towns you feel like you have that feeling? Have you had it previously in Washington? And was there a different feeling as you've been in town, a little less than 24 hours this time?
I still think this has always been kind of a football city. It's just been a sad football city for a while. And I say this as a man who lives in a city that is oftentimes a very sad sports city. The Cubs only recently got good, within the last few months. The Sox have been a miserable disaster. The Bulls underachieved. The Bears won 3 games last year, but it's still a football town. And that's how I feel about D.C. It's still a football city. Now, you can say in 19, in that couple-year stretch where the Nats were competitive and obviously won a World Series, that everybody kind of latches onto them and buys in and wants to be a part of the uprising of a football team or of a successful baseball team. But football always is the big uniter wherever you go. I do feel like that is enhanced right now more than anything else. Kansas City is a football city when you go there. There's great teams and great players in Dallas, but it's a football town. It's a football state, frankly. Even when you go to Houston, they love the Astros. I think maybe that's one of the few spots. That there's an example of a city that has become a baseball city because of the pure dominance of their baseball team for the last, 7 years. So I still look at this place as a football town, a football city, but you can definitely feel that it's enhanced. It's certainly not where it was in the 80s and 90s. It's going to take a lot to even get to that point anytime soon, but it still is at its core a place where football brings people together. And if you have a good start to this season, I don't see, I'm going through my notes right now. I'm looking at the schedule. If you can get through the first month and still feel like you have a lot to play for, then this team is fine. But you're going to run into Buffalo, you're going to run into Philadelphia right out, in the first month. Once you get to week 5, week 6, and you get into some of these other games against teams that are kind of also middle of the pack in their conferences, I think you'll start to feel it if this team is competitive again.
No doubt. By the way, I'd be remiss if I did not just simply say, on the Astros front, except for 2019. Except for 2019.
Except for 2019. There you go.
Hooray! All right. Adam Amin is with us, of course, Fox Sports play-by-play. He and Mark Schlereth to be on the call on Sunday. So you got to sit down with Rivera multiple times last year in the production meetings, and especially early in the year, that Week 3 game against Philadelphia. And, he would always publicly say, oh, we're supportive of Carson. We're really excited. We think he's going to be great, because what else is he going to say? He's an NFL head coach. But you get to sit down with him and feel it and feel the confidence level. And you probably could tell a little bit underneath, there's some nerves there. When he starts talking about Sam Howell with you guys today in your meeting, how was it different than a year ago?
I think it was completely different. And it was both with Ron and with Eric Bieniemy. And now you can't compare, obviously, last year for Eric, but you just the general vibe that you got from both of those guys talking about Sam was very high praise. They were very excited about the potential of Sam. Now, listen, he's got one NFL start under his belt, but I've seen him practice a bunch. I've seen him play in his college days. We covered him in college during his, electric freshman season at Carolina. I texted Mac Brown, when I knew he was going to be the starter. Mac's a good friend of mine, going back to our days working together and covering him since he's been in North Carolina. He was very excited about Sam. You can coach him hard, coach his kid, all the stuff that you guys kind of already know about him. But you see it in practice. You see the even-keeled demeanor. You see how his offense responds to him. And I think it's just a talent thing. And that speaks to the capabilities and the potential capabilities of this offensive line as well. So all of these things go hand in hand to give people confidence. If you're a fan and you go, hey, I like our offensive line, and we have 2 really good running backs, and Logan Thomas is healthy, and I put this trio of receivers, McLaurin, Samuel, and Dotson, up against a lot of trios in the NFL, when you can say all of those things and say, I think this quarterback gets it, and then you watch him throw a very catchable ball in the start last year against Dallas, where he even says he could have been better, where you watch him in the preseason and you saw some of the throws that he made, and I watch him in practice against, granted, he's not going to get hit in practice, but you watch him against practice pressure, and he's throwing balls with touch and distance and some heat on it in the more intermediate and short games. All of these things go hand in hand. So naturally, Ron Rivera and Eric Bieniemy come in and say, I really like where he's at offensively right now. So there's expectation of Sam with only one start under his belt and only a few preseason games and only, reps for the last couple of months with the ones. So when I hear that, when I feel it, it's pretty glaring compared to where this organization has been the last several years with the slew of starting quarterbacks that were taking snaps. And then last year when they had, Wentz up and down when they had Heineke very high up, and then all of a sudden hit the skids later in his tenure. So I'm excited for it because you can kind of sense there's a little bit of faith. And hey, guys, this is the number 144 pick. You don't see this all the time, so you can sense when people have confidence, especially when there's not a track record at this level or in the draft process for a player like Howell.
Obviously, the success of Howell and Bieniemy is tied hand in hand in many ways. What's your impression of Eric? And I don't know how often you got to do, Kansas City games and talk to him, as obviously Fox traditionally has had the NFC package. I know the TV rules, if we want to get into that, they're very scrambled. Who knows who you'll have week to week this year? But, I don't know how often you've gotten to chat with him in the past, but what were your impressions of him in this new role and where he is headed into the season?
Well, he's an easy guy to talk to. He knows Mark Schlereth, obviously going back to, he's a big Colorado guy, obviously. He's very excited about what's happening with Deion and stuff in Boulder right now. But I was impressed. I walked away impressed. He knows his stuff, has a great feel for how NFL offense is developing. I really like some of the insight he gave us on the tight end position because of what he has with Travis Kelce, what he had with Travis Kelce, and why Kelce was so good, even though, Kelce was essentially playing a receiver position. And that's probably going to be a little bit different than what you see here. But, part of the insight that he gave us about why Kelce's so great, part of the insight about his running back background and why he likes this room so much because, he's coached Maurice Jones-Drew and Charles and Peterson and some big names over the last, 10 to 15 years in this league. So I really enjoyed kind of getting his insight. I like his confidence. I like that Ron Rivera has given him leeway to kind of take this organization to the next level and help build something a little bit different culturally. Like, you don't get to be an offensive coordinator of the caliber of Bieniemy. And I know he wasn't the primary play caller in Kansas City, but you don't get to his point knowing as much as you do without people putting faith in you. And when you get Andy Reid putting faith in you, that's a big deal. It's a really big deal to have that stature of coach and then hear what Patrick Mahomes says about Bieniemy and have that stature of player speak as highly about Bieniemy as they have. So I finally got the chance to hear it today, why people buy into him, his insight, the way he speaks about the game. My favorite thing about great quarterbacks when we get to sit down with them is how they speak about the position they play. And, Tom Brady obviously is considered to be one of the greatest to play the game. I always wanted to hear him talk when we had him in our production meetings when he was with Tampa Bay. And I just liked how he spoke about the game. And it sounded like a person who had thought deeply about his place in the game, about the philosophy of how the game has changed, about how it's developing, about the modern era of offense in the NFL. And I heard a lot of that when I listened to Eric Bieniemy talk. So I walked away very impressed with him.
So let me ask you, kind of with that top of mind, what were your impressions of Howell? He's not going to have 20 years of perspective like Brady did. Duh. He's been alive barely as long as Tom Brady played football. But from just kind of the guy who's thought deeply about where he is right now and about the game, like, what are your impressions of Howell on that front?
Yeah, he'll turn 23 next Saturday, I think.
Look at you, all prepped and ready to go.
There it is. My favorite thing he said when we asked him, like, it's a big deal to get faith from your organization and from your teammates. Obviously, he was voted captain. You heard about what he said, about how great that is to him, and it's something he doesn't take for granted. He basically said, I know where I was drafted. I know I'm a 5th-round pick, and I know my position don't usually get chances like this right out of the gate, and they don't get chances with this much depth. Like, you're the starter, like, going into a season, you're the guy. Like, that's reserved for first-round picks, for second-round, even for third-round picks. That's reserved for, the higher-round guys. That's not reserved for people who get drafted in the 140s. What was he, picked 144? Like, he understood that, and he spoke very highly about his time not playing last year. While, he said until Wentz got hurt in week 6, right, against Chicago with the hand injury, he wasn't taking any scout team reps because Heineke was taking all the scout team reps as the true backup. And then when Heineke steps in, finally, he gets to start taking some scout team reps. And he said something that I think a lot of quarterbacks say. I treated every rep like it was the game because I didn't know when I was going to get the next one. But while sitting on the sidelines, he goes, I did all the mental work, and I felt comfortable with the offense, and I got comfortable fairly fast. And that's not shocking based on the intelligence level that he has. That's what I've heard a lot about from him or from Mac Brown. You know, the coach's kid thing is no joke. Anytime you're a coach's kid and you make it this far, typically you have a pretty good grasp of how offenses work. So hearing him talk about safety play and rotations from the back end and how he looks at the defense from top down and how he has an understanding of pressure packages and how his teammates, especially De'Ami Brown, have spoken about him, because obviously, you know, they played together in North Carolina. Like, all of these elements that are, you know, you become cliche when you hear them enough. It's still jarring in a good way to hear somebody like him, drafted in the 5th round, doesn't come out of like a blue blood college football program. Like, it's nice and refreshing to hear it, and it certainly makes you seem like somebody who has more perspective beyond, you know, the 23-year-old he's about to be, beyond the one start resume that he has in the NFL. So that's what I got from him, just his presence and self-awareness. I'm a big self-awareness guy because as I get older, I'm trying to maintain a certain level of self-awareness. So I know, you know, how to adjust my behavior, how if I'm not doing something right, I want to improve on that. He seems to have that type of knowledge already as a guy who's 13 years younger than I am.
Yeah. Those wise kids, as you get older, you're like, oh, you're rare. Was I terrible at that age? And you start asking questions.
Was I a jerk? Because it seems like I was kind of a jerk when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah. I didn't know you in your early 20s. Late 20s, you had some things figured out. So that's when we met. That's all I care about. All the people never mind. We're not going down the rabbit hole. Adam Amin is with us here on the Hoffman Show, Fox Sports. Of course, on the call on Sunday. Last thing for you on the way out, my friend. A lot of people, obviously, around the football world think Arizona is going to absolutely stink. A joke of a team. I can't believe they cut Colt McCoy and traded this guy and yada, yada, yada. And I know from talking to Schlereth earlier in the week, he's like, people are sleeping on Arizona. Not that they're going to be good, but they're not a pushover. I know you haven't had a chance, or typically you don't have a chance to have your Arizona meetings until Saturday, so I don't know how much you've gotten a chance to talk to folks around there, but you've certainly been studying them. What are your impressions of Arizona and the opponent that Washington faces on Sunday?
Like, I kind of feel the same way, the general ideas, but again, I hope to be proven wrong as the season goes on. We'll have Arizona week 2 as well. So, we'll see what happens Sunday and then kind of see it week to week when they play New York next week. There's talent, there's talented guys, but as oftentimes you see, this is kind of a piecemeal lineup now, right? Whether it's their front, they go and sign LJ Collier, and now Jonathan Ledbetter is going to get more time up front. And, their best players, their best sack guys are gone. J.J. Watt retired. Zach Allen went to Denver. Isaiah Simmons just got traded to the Giants. Myjai Sanders, who had 3 sacks in limited duty last year, is on IR. Byron Murphy goes to Minnesota. Marcus Golden was a veteran who went back to Pittsburgh. They drafted a corner in the 3rd round who's injured right now. So where do you look? I still think Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson are 2 of the best safeties in the league. That's one of the best safety tandems around. And I'm a big Kaiser White fan who's playing inside linebacker for him. Zaven Collins, I saw make really good plays and make great strides last year, but there's not enough right now for me to feel confident on the defensive end for Arizona. Offensively, listen, Josh Dobbs has 2 starts. That's it. They came late last year. There's not much there. Clayton Tune, if he ends up having to play, has never taken a snap in the NFL. James Conner's a really good running back, but their offensive line is a piecemealed offensive line. I'm excited to watch Paris Johnson play. I got so much hype from him, and he's a top 5 pick or a top 6 pick. So I'm excited to watch him play, but it's a lot of piecemealing right now. So I'm not sold on Arizona by any means because of those reasons. Do I think they can win a few games this year? Yeah. Will they end up with the number 1 pick? Maybe. Just out of sheer, volume of losses, they may just end up being a number 1 pick team next season. I've had good experiences with Jonathan Gannon. He's an energetic guy. I know the general idea that, everybody saw the 40-second clip of his, kind of cringy locker room or meeting room speech, but that's a small portion of it. I'm not going to judge a guy based off that, how he's going to be as a head coach based off that. The there's just not enough there for me to feel like they're going to start winning games right out of the gate. But I don't think they're going to be a pushover team. I agree with my partner on that. I think there's talent on the defensive end, and you have to avoid mistakes against talented players when they're not a full unit. So they've got a long hill to climb. Still have to execute. That's what I think I like about Washington on Sunday. This is a chance for them to execute against a team that they're clearly better than. They're more of a unit than Arizona is right now. And I think they're more talented overall. So this is a great opportunity to try to learn how to execute with a new quarterback. And that's kind of what I'm expecting on Sunday. And that's kind of what I'm expecting for Arizona as the year goes on. Can their talent win them some games? I think so. I just don't know if it comes right out of the gate.
Adam Amin will be there talking about it, describing the action for us all watching on television, Fox Sports with Mark Schlereth and Christina Pink. Thank you for your time. As always, my friend, I'm bummed I won't get to see you now this weekend, but at least I get to hear your call on Sunday, so not all is lost.
No, I appreciate it, buddy. Feel better. Give Rachel my best, and we'll see you next time we're out here, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Adam Amin, everybody. Fox Sports with us here on The Hoffman Show. A gentleman, a scholar, and a fine play-by-play man. Also, a fantastic friend. He's really got it all. All right, when we get back here on the show, Anthony, are you ready?
I have to do so much better than I did last year. So, of course, I'm ready, Craig.
Yeah, if not, you got about 6 minutes to get there because it is time for us to go around the NFL and pick some football games. That is next here on the Team 980. By the way, did you ever find your headphones?
Yes, I did find them, actually.
Who do you think hid them? Who do we need to fight?
What were you saying?
I said, now that you've got your headphones on, who do we need to fight? Who do we think hid them? Where were they?
So Jeff Walker definitely came into the studio and took my headphones.
If you had given me one guess, 100% Jeff Walker.
Yep.
100%. All right, Jeff Walker. You come in, sometimes you just barge in, you're like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, cool, like, what are you doing here? Which is fine. Jeff's a delight. But can you please leave my guy's headphones alone? He's a professional radio producer. He's got things to do.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My favorite story is, I think we were playing Cincinnati. Was it Cincinnati?
That's not what depends on the story, but maybe we were playing Cincinnati.
So Logan catches this touchdown.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was Cincinnati. Yep.
It was Cincinnati. So we put in this play, and it was like, I think we called it Hoss Juke or something like that. I can't remember what we called it in that offense, but Logan's on a seam, right? So he's our vertical threat, taking the top off the defense.
Digging out, guys.
We're talking in the week. I don't think we ever said it in the install with those guys, but they're like, listen, Logan's not even in the progression. He's taking the top off this thing. We're trying to work this little option route down. And they bust this coverage. And I mean, he is screaming wide open.
I wasn't even supposed to be on the play. They were supposed to sub somebody else in because I thought I was too slow to run this route. Just for the context here for everybody.
So he's screaming wide open. And I'm like, Matt, throw it at his back shoulder. You might hit him in stride. If you try and back shoulder him. threw it right at him. He catches it. It was an awesome touchdown. Just the celebration afterwards was so much fun. For me, it was always fun celebrating the touchdowns with the guys that didn't score them all the time. You know, like
take that, Julio Jones.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm saying that, but like your role for us was you did the dirty work, and when you see guys that do the dirty work get rewarded for it, that was really cool. Something I'll never forget. The caveman, man. The caveman was in there in the end zone celebrating. It was awesome.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And if you are new to the show since last football season, every Friday, Anthony and I go around the NFL. We pick every game. We keep track of our picks. And last season, Anthony, how did that go?
You ended up doing a lot better than me. The final record was you went 165, 80, and 1, which is about 2/3 you got correct. And I went 149, 96, and 1. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about my percentage, but, it wasn't as good as yours.
I mean, in the end, you really had that one terrible week where Anthony went like 2-14 or something. Yeah. Just an embarrassing showing that really held you back. So do we want to just do it the same way, or do we want to pick against the spread this year?
I'd rather just pick teams. Like, you're either going to
straight
be right
up?
or, yeah.
Okay, I'm down for that. I'll say this.
I mean, I guess we could.
No, let's just go straight up.
Right.
That's our thing. Look, everyone does the gambling thing. We can be different. We can just pick the winners and look smarter when we get most of them right. But if any of the sports books want to sponsor us and give us lots of money, we're happy to use your lines and change our picks. Okay, with that said, Anthony, it's time to go around the NFL. Yeah, pump that music into your veins. Last night, Lions and Chiefs. Lions win because the Chiefs couldn't catch the football. We didn't pick that game. But, Anthony, they're going to need a lot more out of Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, especially if Kelsey's out. But, man, that was Patrick Mahomes, still Patrick Mahomes. But he can, as Tom Brady's then wife said, he can't throw and catch it at the same time.
That dude Mahomes, man. That's why you just can't bet against him. Like, I guarantee you, Lions fans were, like, still nervous as hell as the game, dwindled down. So
100%.
I don't know.
By the way, did you see the Clyde Edwards-Helaire photo?
No.
So there's a run that he had yesterday where he ran into the back of the entire Chiefs offensive line. And somebody did a freeze frame, and there is 25 yards of space if he just cuts back.
Oh, my God.
He just keeps burying into the back of the lineman. And they got, a little bit of yardage on it. But it is – I'll have to find it. It's hilarious. When I said the Clyde Edwards-Helaire photo, if you had seen it, you would have known what I was talking about. You've seen the play. Mm-hmm. But it's – oh, my God. They got to – Mahomes needs some help. That's all I'm going to say. All right, to the games still to come and the picks. So we start off
baby.
In Atlanta. Panthers and Falcons open the season with a divisional bout. Atlanta favored by 3.5 at home. Debut for the number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young. Of course, second-rounder Desmond Ridder. His first season opener as a starter for Atlanta. Sir Haney.
I think I'm going to go with the Falcons here. I'm not confident that the Panthers will be able to protect Bryce Young. In the preseason, they did a horrendous job. And there's so many players that don't play in the preseason. And the fact that you had your starters out there and Bryce was still getting lit up, I don't know, it gives me a reason to, have some caution, in picking the Panthers. So I think I'm going to go Falcons here. I think they're going to offensively definitely run the ball. And let's see what Drake London and Kyle Pitts can also do.
Hopefully Kyle Pitts can do a lot because I drafted him in fantasy yesterday in our league. I think the Falcons are one of the most interesting teams this year because they are zigging so hard when everyone else zags. It's a pass-friendly league, and they're like, hey, everyone with their passing personnel, we've now got one of the best running backs in football. At least that's what we all think he's going to be in Bijan. They've got the right schematics in terms of what Arthur Smith is bringing. Obviously, super success with Derrick Henry in Tennessee, and they ran the ball really well last year, and that is who they are. They have an identity. I think they are one of the most I'm not saying they're going to be one of the best or they're a legit contender. I just think from a philosophical standpoint, they're one of the most interesting teams in the entire league. I'll take Atlanta in the game, and I'm excited to watch them this season. Bengals and Browns, AFC North divisional matchup to start the year. Actually, there's quite a few divisional matchups on the schedule. Of course, Washington not getting one of those to start, but it'll be 73 degrees and beautiful in Cleveland when this one kicks off for the Browns against Joe Burrow, his very hefty new bank account, and the Bengals. I will take Cincinnati on the road. much like last year. Actually, I think this was a rule for me last year. Never pick the Browns.
Yep, that's
out of pure spite.
Mm-hmm.
This one I would pick the Bengals anyway. I still will never pick the Browns out of pure spite, even if it winds up costing me, because I can't possibly think of one fiber of my being rooting for them until Deshaun Watson is long removed from their franchise, and everyone who brought him there is as well. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals, who, by the way, are also the better football team. But it is only a 2-point line, which is interesting.
Yeah. So you're going with the Bengals. I will be going with the Browns. I think Deshaun Watson being back, having gotten, the 5, 6, 7 games under his belt to end the season, I think the Browns were playing some solid football to end the season, and he was getting better. Now he has a full off season. You get Nick Chubb back. I really think that Browns offense is going to be, one of the most underrated, heading into the season, but they're going to be nice, man. So I think I'm going to go with the Browns. I don't think the Bengals defensively will have enough. I think losing Jesse Bates and Von Bell is going to hurt them. So it's going to be interesting to see how their secondary holds up.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being objective about the Browns, we'll see how much better Watson is. Like, he definitely looked better in the preseason in his limited action than he did at any point last year. But still, their O-line and Chubb is what makes that team nasty, and that is a potential problem. But Burrow will find a way, because that's what he does. Like, that dude's that good. Speaking of dudes who are real good, Jags and Colts, Indy 6-point dogs at home with Anthony Richardson's first career start on deck. Jaguars, of course, coming off of the playoffs last season. I see that big smile, Colts fan Anthony Haney.
I'm just glad this game isn't in Jacksonville, because if it was, I think I would have had to go with Jackson. The Colts cannot win down there. I don't know what it is. They have not won down there. But the season opener and Lucas Oil, I talked to Z earlier today. He already
inside information.
Information. The Colts are winning this game.
Okay.
That's all I got.
I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
Don't tell Z. I think the Colts are really a fun team this year, potentially, with Richardson. Z and that defense, they've got some dudes. Like, they can fly around a little bit. I don't think the Colts are going to be a dumpster fire by any means. And I think, like, the way they're going to probably play super heavy run is going to keep them in a lot of games. But I don't know how good that offensive line is going to be. They've got a super high-end talent, but it didn't come together at all last year. And then Jonathan Taylor's not there. So how does that affect them? Not positively, even if they have some other guys that are okay, but they're not Jonathan Taylor. So I think Jacksonville goes into Indianapolis and wins the football game.
Okay. I do like the Jags, though. I think Calvin Ridley is going to be a problem.
I
don't know who's checking him, but he's going to be a problem to be reckoned with.
Well, yeah. I mean, they were good last year without him, and people forget how good that dude was in Atlanta. Like, tail end of the career Matt Ryan, and he was still did he have 100 catches the year before he got suspended? I think he did.
He might have.
He's nasty. All right, Bucks and Vikings in Minnesota. If the Cardinals aren't the worst team in the league, the Buccaneers might just be. Their offensive line was so bad last year, and that was with Tom Brady, who gets the ball out ridiculously fast. Now, obviously, Brady gone, Baker Mayfield in. I think this Minnesota team's going to be good. This is a pretty easy pick for me, obviously. Vikings going to take this one at home.
I think the game is going to be a little bit closer than people expect. The Bucs defense is still, something real. And that's what they're going to have to lean on this year. Offensively, ain't really got too much. They got some weapons, but again, as you alluded to, the offensive line, and I don't know if their offensive scheme, is predicated to, getting the ball out real fast. But yeah, the Vikings, I think they're going to pick up sort of kind of where they left off last year. Their explosive offense. But let's see if their defense can actually, stop somebody, because they gave up so many points last year.
Yeah, the Vikings, worst defense in the league last year, new defensive coordinator. And then we'll see also from a ball control standpoint without Dalvin Cook how they do. Mm-hmm. Titans and Saints, two big-time mystery teams. I don't want to bet against Vrabel because I think he's been pretty competitive every year. He's always found a way to put out a competitive team. Obviously, if Derrick Henry continues to do his thing, like they're going to be in games. Tannehill's better than people, or he's better than people think. But there's a reason they've tried to replace him every year for the last couple. There's also a reason they haven't been able to find a replacement for him, someone that's actually better. It's because he's actually pretty solid. Obviously, the Saints have a ton of talent offensively. Mike Thomas finally back. What is he after all these years? When he left, so to speak, he was the best receiver in the game, actually by a little bit of a gap. What is he? Chris Olave, great rookie season. We'll see what Carr is there. I'll take New Orleans at home because I think their defense is actually also pretty good. But these are two teams that I don't feel like I have a good feel for and won't for a couple weeks.
Mr. Craig Hoffman, you're going with them Aints. I'm going with the Titans, baby. And Derrick Henry, I believe. People keep talking about, well, I don't know, from a fantasy standpoint, people keep on talking about Derrick Henry is 29 years old. He can't do. I'm like, there was a guy who was dominant, up until 30, 31, named Adrian Peterson. I think Derrick Henry is what we're seeing as a second coming of Adrian Peterson in terms of long-standing dominance. So I'm thinking the Titans are going to lean on Derrick Henry. He's going to go out there, and people forget he had 1,500 yards last year. I think he's going to go out there, pick up where he left off last year. I'm going with the Titans, baby. Let's get it.
All right, you got the Titans, I got the Saints, so a couple opportunities for some differentiation. Obviously, we will have some differentiation. See if Anthony can come out on top. Do you have the Week 1 records, by the way, from last year?
I literally just deleted them. But I want to say you were like 11 and...
Basically, what I'm trying to figure out is, did you ever have a lead last year?
Did
I just go wire to wire on you?
That's okay, because guess what, Craig? Give me like 2 minutes to figure that out.
Okay.
Oh, there it is, right there. That was fast. Okay.
Didn't even need 2 minutes.
I did not need 2 minutes. You were 7-6-1. I was 8-5-1.
So you had a lead.
Yes, I did.
So
have a lead.
If you were to beat me this week, don't you go peacocking because you know how bad it can turn.
Oh yeah, because week 2 was 4-11 for me, and you were 9-6. So
yeah,
that's how bad.
Yeah. That was the week, and I never looked back. And I don't know if you were looking when you made the picks, if we're being honest.
No.
All right, 49ers and Steelers. This feels super trap gamey to me. This feels like the kind of game that Mike Tomlin somehow wins. I just picked the Niners to win the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to pick the Steelers in the game.
You're going to pick the Steelers?
I think I am. I
don't know.
could just see 1 o'clock game, West Coast team. Mike Tomlin does Mike Tomlin stuff. I don't know, man. This is pure gut. It's Kenny Pickett versus the 49ers defense. That doesn't make any damn sense. I don't know why. But they also, dude, TJ Watt, when he got back last year, the Steelers were a different team. He's playing. Him, Minka, they got dudes on that defense.
Yeah, I don't really know which way I want to lean. I'm not going to lie. Because a lot of people they don't believe in Brock Purdy right now. I think I'm going to go with the 49ers, man. I think I'm going with the 49ers. You zig, I zag. Let's get it.
Yeah, I just picked
this is a pick 'em right here. This is a pick 'em.
That was a minus. I got -2. The line I'm looking at. Niners are favored by 2. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it is. We'll find out. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I'm not picking them to win Week 1. What a wacky bit that is. All right, Texans and Ravens. Last game besides the Washington one in the 1 o'clock window. Baltimore 10-point favorites on the road. Do we do our first 1, 2, 3 pick of the year?
I think so.
1, 2, 3.
Texans.
Ravens.
I'm joking.
You really had to do that on the first one.
I apologize. Raven for sure, my MVP candidate. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Lamar. By the way, I don't know if you're watching on the stream and I look incredibly distracted. It's because I have the tennis over here on my iPad. Ben Shelton just forced a third set tiebreak. Djokovic was serving for the match. Shelton broke him. So third set tiebreak at the U.S. Open. Shelton wins it. He stays alive. If Djokovic wins it, he wins the match. So we'll keep you updated on that. All right, Packers and Bears. in the 425 window. I low-key like the Bears this year. I know we just had Adam on, and he was talking about the excitement in Chicago. Like, I don't know. I just feel like Fields could absolutely bust out this year. That's not the boldest prediction ever, but, like, man, if he's kind of at the peak of his running powers and also starts to figure out the passing thing, he could be real dangerous this year. And they have, DJ Moore, and, like, they did some backfilling on that roster and did a good job.
It's Bears versus who?
The Packers.
Yeah, I don't believe in Jordan Love. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to go with you, Craig.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go with the Bears. I actually had Justin Fields on my fantasy team last year. He was putting up some crazy numbers. Defensively,
and then someone took him this year. So mad.
Defensively, they did struggle, though, but they got some new
talent. Then they brought in a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, they got some new dudes, so we'll see what they do.
They also have continuity on the staff, which is helpful as well.
But the Packers do as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what to make of Love.
Defensively,
I definitely see some talent there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I will say with Love, I'm talking about Jair Alexander is one of the most annoying people in the NFL.
He's a funny dude, though.
He talks
a lot of trash.
As long as he's being funny, then it's funny. But I don't think he's actually trying to be funny with some of the I'm the best this, nobody can do whatever. It's just like, I've watched you get smoked too many times. Like, you're really good, but I've watched you get smoked too many times for you to be talking this much.
Yeah, I didn't like how he tried to diss Justin Jefferson after he destroyed them last year.
Right. Like, come on.
That's the only part I didn't like about it. But
I didn't like that. He talked a little bit around Terry, and Terry put him in his place. So, not my favorite. Not my favorite. Raiders and Broncos. So we're both on the Bears there. Is the pick.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Raiders and Broncos. First game of the Sean Payton era in Denver. Of course, Washington will be there next week. I got big bad vibes off the Raiders. Big bad vibes. And part of that is just like, that's the kind of vibes that tend to come with Josh McDaniels as your head coach. So I think I'm going to go Denver. They're favored by 3.5 at home, and I think I'm going to go that direction.
The start of the Sean Payton era. I think also Russell Wilson rebounds from last. There's no way he could. I think this was a one-off last year. He had to be.
I don't know if it's a one-off.
Because, good gracious, he played
I don't think he's great anymore. I don't know if he's as bad as he was last year. And I will say, watching Hard Knocks, man, like, how did Nate Hackett become a head coach? Super fun as an OC. Gold zone. I love gold. That's not NFL head coach material.
Yeah. I don't know. But I think I want to go with the Broncos as well. Again, start of a new era out there in Denver. I'm just not also that big of a believer in the Raiders' offense. Again, they do lose Darren Waller.
Who, by the way, on the injury report for the Giants today.
I see that. And then also Josh Jacobs just got back, so what kind of shape is he also in? So
yeah. All right, so we're both on Denver. Eagles, Patriots. This one shouldn't be much of a discussion, I don't think. It is in New England, but league MVP Jalen Hurts coming back for Philadelphia, along with all them dudes that went to the Super Bowl with him. I got the Eagles.
I got the Eagles too, man. They about to spank them boys.
It was funny on Get Up this morning. Can the Patriots beat the Eagles this morning? And on the graphic, Bart Scott, hell no. not yes, no, maybe,
just
hell no.
Hell no.
So
hell
funny.
No.
Very Bart Scott. Very Get Up. Dolphins and Chargers. This might be the most fun game of the weekend. Two super high-powered offenses. Two really talented quarterbacks. What is Tua coming off of everything that he went through last year? We're going to find out. And I think I'm going to pick the upset here. Chargers favored by 3 at home. I really like Miami, man. I think McDaniels is really smart. I think Tua's really good. He's not as good as Herbert, but Herbert doesn't have the weapons that Tua does. Give me the Dolphins on the road.
Speed does kill, Craig. It really does. The Dolphins definitely are the fastest team in the league. The Chargers, though, for some reason, they start fast to me.
That was your team last year, bro.
It was, and I think I'm going to go right back to them. I'm just expecting. Who's the head coach again?
Brandon Staley.
I need him to be better in situational football. That's all. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the Chargers here. Justin Herbert, he's my MVP second guy. If I could have one. So I'm thinking they start off the season, fast and get this dub. I'm going with the Chargers, baby.
All right, Rams, Seahawks. No Cooper Kupp for LA. Geno, year number 2 for the Seahawks. They add Jackson Smith and Jigba in the draft in the slot. Their receiving core is nasty. I really want to pick the Rams because the bounce back, Stafford back, but with no Kupp, I just pulled up the roster real quick. He didn't have anybody to throw to, and he can make some.
Tyler Higbee.
Look back at the Lions, he can make some chicken salad out of chicken, but I got to pick the Seahawks here in Seattle. 12s will be going crazy. Give me Pete Carroll's crew.
I'm going with the Seahawks as well. No Kupp. The Rams ain't got no offense, and we saw that last year. We saw it. They go as he goes, and if he ain't playing, he's actually out for the first 4 games. So, you hate to see it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Sean's great, and I think that Sean will scheme up. I don't think they'll be dead on offense like they were last year, but their O-line obviously has to be a lot better. And getting a guy like Kupp who can get open quickly can help that. They don't have it, so we'll see. Cowboys and Giants. Again, this is supposed to be Darren Waller's debut for New York, but the star tight end is on the injury list now with a hamstring injury that he picked up today in practice, so we'll see if he is out there. Can Dakota and the boys go on the road, Anthony, and win on Sunday Night Football?
That is a great question, Craig, and I have an answer for you. Dak and them boys about to get the job done. Usually I bet against the Cowboys, but they always start every season looking like a legit contender, and then they start to fall off. So I think this goes hand in hand with what the Cowboys like to do. They'll get this dub. They actually might destroy him, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think they'll fall off towards the end of the season.
This is so tough because I like the Giants way more than I should.
Ooh, okay.
As a team, they're so well coached, and I have so much respect for that. And I think the Cowboys are kind of due for a down year.
Uh-oh. Say it ain't so.
I'm going to feel really dumb on Monday if the Giants are... frankly, at this point, I'm going to feel dumb either way. I'm just going to go with the Giants. I'm just in part just to zig.
I love their defense, though. I'm not going to lie. I love their defense. Their front seven, crazy. Back end.
It's so good.
It's getting better as well.
The Cowboys' offensive line is a little banged up. I think everyone's going to play, but they're not 100%.
Dang. Brett, I'm not going to lie. You got me leaning towards the Giants now. So if I zig towards the Giants, are you going to zig
I'm already
towards
committed.
the boys?
My pick is in.
For the boys.
My pick is in.
All right. My pick is in as well.
All right. Cowboys for you, Giants for me. All right. Bills, Jets, Monday Night Football. I picked the Jets to win the AFC East. I got bad vibes out of Buffalo, but I do think that this Bills team is built to kind of pop the balloon of the Jets a little bit. I'm going to go with Buffalo on the road on Monday night.
You're going with Josh Allen and the Bills. Well, Craig, I'm here to tell you right now that I'm going with the Jets, Jets.
He did it. He did the chant right. Finally. After yesterday, it was Jets, let's go Jets.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I had a thought to go Jets. And then I'm like, nope, Craig is going to make fun of me. I'm going to go Jets. I'm going with the Jets and that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. Let's go, man.
Yeah, we'll see. Thing is, though, he's got a track record of not being so great in some big spots recently. Yep. So this would count as a big spot, Monday Night Football, but we will see. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets win, obviously. I don't have strong feelings here, but I'm gonna put the Bills down and hold my breath and see what happens.
They won last year without Aaron Rodgers. I think they can get one of them.
We'll see. All right, well, when we get back, we will pick 6 commanders who will have the biggest impact on their game with the Cardinals. We'll pick that game before the end of the show. Damon Amendolara, we'll talk more about Aaron Rodgers with him at 6:30 here on the Team 980.
You can...
By the way, did you ever find your headphones?
Yes, I did find them actually.
Who do you think hid them? Who do we need to fight?
What were you saying?
I said now that you've got your headphones on. Who do we need to fight? Who do we think hid them? Where were they?
So Jeff Walker definitely came into the studio and took my headphones.
If you had given me one guess, 100% Jeff Walker.
Yep.
100%. All right, Jeff Walker. You come in, sometimes you just barge in, you're like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, cool. Like, what are you doing here? Which is fine. Jeff's a delight. But can you please leave my guy's headphones alone? He's a professional radio producer. He's got things to do.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My favorite story is, I think we were playing Cincinnati. Was it Cincinnati?
That's not what depends on the story, but maybe we were playing Cincinnati.
So Logan catches this touchdown.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was Cincinnati. Yep.
It was Cincinnati. So we put in this play, and it was like, I think we called it Hoss Juke or something like that. I can't remember what we called it in that offense, but Logan's on a seam, right? So he's our vertical threat, taking the top off the defense.
Digging out, guys.
We're talking in the week. I don't think we ever said it in the install with those guys, but they're like, listen, Logan's not even in the progression. He's taking the top off this thing. We're trying to work this little option route down. And they bust this coverage. And I mean, he is screaming wide open.
I wasn't even supposed to be on the play. They were supposed to sub somebody else in because I thought I was too slow to run this route. Just for the context here for everybody.
So he's screaming wide open. And I'm like, Matt, throw it at his back shoulder. You might hit him in stride. If you try and back shoulder him. Threw it right at him. He catches it. It was an awesome touchdown. Just the celebration afterwards was so much fun. For me, it was always fun celebrating the touchdowns with the guys that didn't score them all the time. You know, like
take that, Julio Jones.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm saying that, but like your role for us was you did the dirty work, and when you see guys that do the dirty work get rewarded for it, that was really cool. Something I'll never forget. The caveman. Yeah. And the caveman was in there in the end zone celebrating. It was awesome.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hope that you're having a great Friday. Anthony, this is our first ever 6 o'clock hour, Football Friday style.
It is. Good gracious.
Because the time changed on the show midway through last year, but after football season. So last football season, we were done. I was on my way home, or in this case, because I'm at home right now, I was on my way into the living room, perhaps already preparing dinner. No, this year, we got another hour of radio. And if it's 6 o'clock on a Friday during football season for us this year, that is going to mean it is time for a Pick Six. A Pick Six. There we go. I think you started over. Full volume. Started over. And ready? Here, give me a thumbs up when you're loaded. You're good. All right. It's time for a Pick Six.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick Six at 6.
I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their number one fan.
All right, so here's how we're going to do this on Fridays. It is going to be the 6 most important Commanders for the game. I don't know. 6 most important, 6 most intriguing. I'm going to go most intriguing, most interesting, not necessarily most important. Otherwise, it'd probably be like the same 6 every single week. So the guys that I'm most interested in on Sunday. Number 1 is the most important, and it's Sam Howell. It's his first career start as a true QB1, second career start overall, and I'm very, very intrigued to see how he meets the moment. I do not think that it will be too big for him. Nothing so far has been. But what he faced in Dallas last year is a totally pressure-free situation where there were no expectations, and the game circumstances wound up being as favorable as any quarterback will pretty much ever have in their entire careers. Like, he gets a plus territory turnover and a quick, easy, shallow cross to Terry McLaurin that he runs in for a touchdown on his first career pass attempt. Like, okay, so now you're up and you're playing from ahead the entire game. It's just, he only had to, throw less than 20 passes, wasn't it? Or he threw, 16 to 25, something like that. He threw less than 30 passes in the entire game. So what happens in, unless he gets that lucky again, what happens in I don't want to call it a real NFL game, but what happens in more normalized NFL circumstances? So do I think Howell will be good? And if I'm in the prediction business, I'm predicting good things for Sam Howell. Nothing I've seen so far suggests that he will not be. Not that it won't be perfect, not that there won't be growing pains, but that he will indeed succeed. But I am curious how it's going to look. So number 1 is Sam Howell. By the way, Anthony, do you have the numbers up in live? That's an element of Pick 6 that I forgot because they're not right in front of me today. You ready for number 2?
That was too fast.
That was too fast. That's on me. That's 100% my fault. Tell you what, number 2. We'll pick up the fancy numbers with number 3. Number 2 is Jahan Dotson, who ironically is number 1. Dotson, I think, could have a monster season. And I think this will be an indicator type of game. I think he will get the ball early. I think he will get the ball often. I think he will get the ball on the move. I think he will get the ball in the deep and intermediate ranges as well. Like, Terry's going to be their shot guy. Jahan will occasionally get one of those. But I think he will get yardage in chunks. And he will also be the guy that they just try to force feed the ball. Like, in a lot of ways, I know this sounds crazy, but, like, he's going to be the Travis Kelce of this offense. Because Kelce, part of the reason why he's so effective is he's such a good route runner. Now, he gets to run his routes against linebackers and create mismatches. And, he was a by nature of position matchup nightmare for defenses. But Jahan is so good that he can run his routes on anyone that you can use him in very similar ways and trust with the same reliability that he's going to get open. And then if he slips a tackle, like, he's so dynamic in the open field, big plays are going to be abound. So, and by the way, he's almost never going to get a number 1 corner, because if you want to take that risk and put your second best guy on Terry or have him over Terry with regularity, good luck with that, because Terry's still the better player. But I think Jahan's going to have a monster year. And when you talk about kind of the usage levels in this offense, I think that Jahan might wind up being and I've said this before, I think he's going to lead the team in receptions, even if Terry leads it in yards. And I think we'll start to understand that better and how the distribution is going this weekend. And Jahan's kind of my main focus on that front. All right, to the defensive side.
Number 3.
I'm going to put 2 guys here, Jamin Davis, Cody Barton. We know the front's good. We're pretty sure the back end's good. How's the middle? And against a Kevin Stefanski, Kyle Shanahan family of offense, which is what Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator in Arizona, runs, the linebackers are put in conflict quite a bit. So how do they react? Can they get downhill and fit runs? I feel pretty confident Jamin Davis can. Cody Barton was pretty underwhelming on that in the preseason. How is his read-react game? How good is he then dropping into coverage? How late are you on those things? Understanding when it's play action, when you actually need to get down and get involved and fill your gap because it is run. Those 2 guys are going to be the difference between this defense being like good but occasionally problematic, or great. The difference between it being great and like exceptional is going to be whether or not Chase Young plays, but that's a different conversation for later. But Jamin, Cody Barton, they're kind of at the key of everything here. So those guys are my number 3 for those reasons.
Number 4.
Quan Martin did not have a very good preseason, obviously. Better as it went. Did make a lot of really good plays, but made some pretty high-profile bad ones. And in this game, if he plays, the types of plays that he gave up, the high-profile bad ones, are what will kill this team. In general, the Cardinals are not good enough to beat Washington by stringing together 5 15-play drives. They're not talented enough. They will get a holding penalty. They'll give up a sack. Someone will fumble. Quarterback will make an error and throw an interception. Like, something bad will happen if they have to put together long drive after long drive. So if you give up explosive plays, that's how you're going to lose. And one of the best guys on that front for Arizona is Rondale Moore, who plays a lot in the slot. And if Quan Martin is out there, Quan has got to be on top of him. Moore is experienced enough and quick enough and athletic enough to be a problem. I don't know how much Quan is actually going to play, which is also, to me, the interesting part. He's going to have a role, but how much is he out there? What does he do? Quan Martin on the interesting list, number 4 for me this week.
Number 5.
Sadiq Charles. Really poor start to camp, in part because he wasn't out there the whole time. We all thought Chris Paul was going to win that job, and Sadiq comes charging back, and he has been excellent. Mark Schlereth was blown away with what he saw on tape. This was the dude who was the starting tackle protecting Joe Burrow's blind side on that LSU national championship team. Like, he's a very talented player and has been a part of good teams in the past. Now, can he do it at the pro level and can he do it at guard? We'll see. But, obviously he's going to be right there in front of Sam Howell. He's going to be a key part of their screen game, which is something that struggled in the preseason, but is going to be a big part of this offense. He's going to be a big part of their run game. How does Sadiq Charles step up and perform? That is number 5. And last but not least, someone you probably didn't think I was going to mention.
Number 6.
What if Chris Rodriguez just is awesome? And I don't, it's too early to say that. I actually already have regret for even phrasing it that way, if I'm being totally honest. But he runs so hard, and was incredible in the preseason. And I think he's a guy that can come in, spell Brian Robinson, get a couple of carries, and consistently earn more over the course of the year. He is really, to me, he's the Isaiah Pacheco of this team. And who was the leading rusher for Kansas City last year was Pacheco. Late round pick who just came in and ran his face off, and he's an angry runner, and that's what kind of runner Bieniemy likes. Now, Robinson can also be that, and Robinson, I think, will ultimately lead the team in rushing and attempts, probably by a decent amount. But the Chris Rodriguez role is one I don't have a good grasp on, but I think it's going to exist. And I think this is a game, especially if they get up a little bit and start to run the ball a little bit more, this could be a game where he carves out a bigger role for himself the remainder of the season. All right, that is our pick 6. 6 players we've got our eye on for any variety of reasons. On Sunday, we'll do it every Friday. And then Monday at 6 o'clock, we'll check in and see how those 6 did. Coming up next, we'll get you caught up on the latest headlines and news going into the game. What is Chase Young's status? What is the status of the punt return game? The major announcement about Dax Milne today. So we will get you those news and notes before Damon Amendolara joins us at 6:30 here on The Hoffman Show.
Hey, it's Luke.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Boogieing on into the final 40 minutes of the show. Damon Amendolara, less than 10 minutes away. Looking back at last night's game, looking ahead to the season with our friend from CBS Sports Radio, my longtime friend, so not just friend of the show, but he's a friend. It's been a good day for friends, Anthony. Adam Amin, real life friend. Damon Amendolara, real life friend. We're friends in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Friends.
And that's what friends are for.
Where's that from?
It's a song.
I know where from.
The people who wrote it.
Oh, Friends.
No, not like the show Friends. Like we should move on very quickly.
Friends.
Wow, that got weird quick. Anyway, so most listeners, we found out a couple weeks ago, don't want to be friends with Dax Milne. They don't want him to be their punt returner either. Good news for those folks. Bad news for Dax. He got put on IR today, Anthony. So where does that leave the return game? As he was both the kickoff and punt returner. Ron Rivera addressed that question earlier today and did not give away a lot in the answer.
Well, we'll see him when we get there on Sunday. But Gibson and Pringle are the two kick returners right now, and we do have a choice to make on who's gonna be our punt returner.
So here would be the options. 1, you stick with your current roster, and Jahan Dotson's your punt returner. 2, you call up Kaz Allen and hope for the best. 3, you call up Jamison Crowder and hope for the best. Any other options you can think of, Anthony?
They can definitely put Anthony Hanley III. They can call me up, I'll go out there and everybody should hope for the best.
I would like to submit my name as well.
Okay.
What would you do if you were the punt returner?
And we will hope for the best.
Yeah, what would you do if you were the punt returner this weekend?
That's a great question, Craig. To be honest, I think I will let a lot of the punts drop for fear of one, dropping a punt, and then also for fear of somebody, running full speed and hit me.
Yeah, no, you know what I would do every time?
Fair catch.
I would do the bit where you, like, say the punt's to the right. I would run as far left as possible, wave the fair catch signal, and see if I could fool people.
On the field, though, do they tell the team where the ball is going? Because sometimes they get fooled, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's how it works. So that is something like, I don't know, because like they call, hey, we're gonna punt left, right? Or a punt middle. Like I mean, ideally, that's communicated beforehand.
Yeah.
Just like in Madden, right? Like they call punt right, punt left, whatever, and that way they can try to angle the coverage. But typically the gunners are looking at the returner because you can't guarantee that the punter is going to kick it where it's supposed to go. So they just look at the returner.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could pull it off once, especially because those dudes would want to kill me.
I mean, the amount of times I think the Cardinals are going to be punting, we're going to lose a lot of yards.
Yeah, we would. I think they should probably go with one of the first 3 options and not either one of us.
Yeah, I like those options.
I think the Captain Easy Pants take is to say bring up Crowder, because then everyone's going to be like, cool, bring up the new guy. But like Jamison Crowder wasn't very good as a punt returner last year. He hasn't been good as a punt returner in a while, and he has had the occasional fumble. Dotson hasn't done it at all as a pro, and he's super valuable to your offense. And Kaz Allen just had the preseason he had as a punt returner, which wasn't great.
It was one game, and my thing is, just like Kadarius Toney had a terrible game, Mahomes tried to, come to his defense, say he believes in him and things of that nature. Just one bad game, move on from it.
But it's not like he's got a long history of being a good punt returner.
Well, that too.
He was a great kick returner in college.
Yep.
But catching punts is a different beast, man.
Yep.
It's hard. It is high. Dudes are running at you fast.
Spin on it sometimes.
The spin, like it's not. Yeah, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
And like if you think it's just hard to catch them in general, like, by the way, you also are doing this in football pads, which extend your chest out to here and are hard as a rock, and that ball is going to bounce off. And
your helmet.
And your helmet's in the way. Like, your head's heavier, so you're trying to do this number and look up. Like, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Do you want to take your name out of the mix?
No, because I would still get paid a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I would take the game check.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's what I would be doing it for. For a check.
We can waiver fair catch hands. Our fair catch hands work.
Yep. Sign me up. Put me in the game, coach.
Yeah. I'll actually, since I can't do it because I'm locked in the house.
Oh, man.
I guess it's you, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. What an honor.
/ I'm so sorry.
What? My bank account isn't going to be sorry.
Can I have $1?
Sure. Hey, look, I'll sponsor our next lunch. That's how generous I
wow.
will be.
Ron, make the call. I want lunch. Also, Chase Young has a doctor's appointment. That's the Chase Young update. Maybe eventually he'll actually go, and we'll learn about it, but he hasn't been cleared by doctors yet. And always, the doctor's appointment is after the coach talks to the media, because why would you possibly do it before? So that's the latest in Commanders land. We'll pick the game coming up before Real Things at 6:45. But next, our good pal Damon Amendolara joins us here on the Hoffman Show. The Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And back with us for the football season. Happy to welcome in my friend Damon Amendolara, of course, the DA Show on CBS Sports Radio each and every weekday morning. DA, nice long paternity leave for you from your own show. We gave you even extra from this show, which is probably appropriate because we don't pay you.
Yeah, I mean, as loyal as I am to the Hoffman Show, until I start seeing that check cash, I said I'm taking my summer off. I'm holding out Hoffman Show until I get a bigger pay raise from zero.
Okay, I'll send you $5. I hope Venmo still works. I hope it's still all connected.
Well, now we're talking. Okay,
right.
now we're talking. I like this.
All right.
That negotiation went easier than I thought.
Speaking of negotiations, do the Chiefs need to negotiate some new wide receiver contracts? Like, how concerned should Kansas City be after last night?
Yeah, I think there's a concern about who the number one target is aside from Travis Kelce. I mean, the one thing the Chiefs have done is they've decided it's their wide receivers. They've been right. They've won 2 Super Bowls. Last year they won one post Tyreek Hill. But think about all of the wide receiving talent that has left Kansas City since this run began. Sammy Watkins was the first, then Tyreek Hill. We've seen Juju Smith-Schuster leave as well, and Nicole Hardman. That's a lot of potential wide receivers, 1s or 2s, that went out the door. And then last night, without Travis Kelce, nobody stepped up to look like a 1. Back maybe as soon as week 2. They'll get it back soon, seemingly. But if you have to depend on somebody in that wide receiving core, I guess it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's been there a while. But also, you know, if that's Kadarius Toney's potential, if Sky Moore's potential is 0 catches, if Rashee Rice is the guy catching touchdowns, there's an issue. That's a thin wide receiving group, and somebody's going to have to grow up real quick.
No doubt. Damon Amendolara, CBS Sports Radio with us. And I think it reminds us, obviously, how competitive the NFL is week in, week out. Sometimes it feels inevitable when a guy like Mahomes goes and wins the Super Bowl, but it's just not. And I think when we made our predictions yesterday on the show for the season, like, you kind of realize how wide open it is in both conferences. Is there a team, though, that in either conference you feel really strongly about, that if you had to bet some significant amount of money on to win, you know, to be in the Super Bowl, that you'd be like, that's my team?
You would naturally say the Chiefs because this run that they're on, but I actually think that we might see a bit of a regression this year. I still think they win the division. I still think they win well over double-digit games, but whether it's the Jones holdout, the Kelce injury, a thin wide receiving core, young guys having to grow up, or just exhaustion. It's a long season they've gone through, and winning a Super Bowl and coming back to do it again is something that we have not seen in 20 years. I don't think the Chiefs get back to a Super Bowl. I've got 2 teams going to the Super Bowl for that exact reason. Teams that I think are just too talented to fail and have not climbed the mountaintop yet, or haven't done it multiple times in terms of getting there, and that's the Bengals and the Eagles. They've both been there recently, but they haven't closed the job. And I know it's rare for a Super Bowl loser to get back there, but I think the Eagles have as good a chance as we've seen in a long time because they're so loaded on both sides. They have excellent wide receivers. They have good running backs. They have a really good offensive line. They have a great two-way to kill you quarterback. They've got incredible depth on the defensive line. They've got, you know, kind of everything you could possibly need in multiple levels. I think the Eagles are kind of too good to fail. And I also think the Bengals are as well. I think the Bengals are knocking on the door to finally get a crown of their own. They're largely, if not completely, healthy, and they're great on both sides of the football. This is the window. This is the moment to win if you're the Bengals. So those are the 2 teams that I think are just so good and balanced that it would be really hard to bet against them, even if they deal with, you know, the natural turbulence that almost every team does in the NFL.
Yeah, actually, that means you split the picks that Anthony and I made, because I had Cincinnati and he had Philadelphia. So there you are, just perfectly in the middle. Something in the Syracuse education waters.
We are in alignment here.
Yes. The one that I couldn't believe that I picked is I picked the Jets to win the AFC East. Am I just did my brain get scrambled by Hard Knocks? Am I guilty of that, or are they actually going to be good?
Well, I've got them making the playoffs. I don't have them winning the division, and I think if they get to the playoffs, it could be an early game. Defense is very good. They were very good last year. I think that offense has real playmakers. Garrett Wilson is clearly one of those guys that is going to become one of the great wide receivers in the game, seemingly. And Rodgers upgrades you at quarterback. My issue with the Jets is I don't know how strong a head coach Robert Saleh is. I don't like the peacocking. I don't like DJ Reed saying they could be historically great of a defense. I think people tend to overlook that Aaron Rodgers in big spots, playoff games or winning in games over the last 4 years has been relatively terrible, that his regular seasons have been elite. Or last year's Week 18 was pretty terrible. He's been one of the worst players on the field in all of those defeats, a couple of NFC championship games, an NFC divisional round game, and then last year against the Lions in the final regular season game. So I'm not certain that anybody should trust Aaron Rodgers kind of like being this elite playmaker in these big spots anymore. Could be because of age, could be a million other factors, but he had really good teams in Green Bay, and they didn't get to a Super Bowl. So assuming big things in New York, I think, is a step too far. So I guess I would split the difference with you. I think they're a playoff caliber team. I don't think they're good enough to win a division that has the Dolphins and the Bills in it.
Yeah, my brain got scrambled by Hard Knocks. It happened. I'm like even open to the idea that Aaron Rodgers might not be quite as hateable as I want him to be. And then I remember all the stuff that he did. I'm like, yeah, no, actually that guy still sucks.
Well, he's an incredible actor. We can't forget that Aaron Rodgers enjoys the spotlight. He has done this with the Pat McAfee interviews. He enjoys people talking about him. He auditioned for the Jeopardy hosting job. He's angling for that. He likes the show. He likes the attention. He likes the acting part of it. And I think he realized with his Hard Knocks thing that he got to audition again to kind of reboot his brand, reboot his reputation. And I think some of it is very authentic. I think he seems to like being in New York, a fresh start. New York City seems to be good to him, all these things. But there's no doubt he turned the charm up to a 10. And that's kind of his background, to kind of like act his way through the moment that he wants the attention in. So, yeah, I do think you probably were duped in some ways, like a lot of people are, like that's the real Aaron Rodgers, when we also have 5 years of evidence of him being kind of like a surly, me first, I'll tell you how it's going to be, you guys are stupid, I'm smart type of guy as well.
Right. No, and that's the thing is like it's only going to be so much with NFL films that you're not going to come out and be like, wow, that's a COVID denying anti-vax, believes in all kinds of crazy stuff weirdo. But I did appreciate, because he is so like that does come to him authentically. They have the UFO scene and he's talking about like how he saw a UFO and you're like, oh, right. This guy might be from outer space.
Yeah, look, Aaron Rodgers has, I think, two sides of his personality, and maybe one of them is Martian-like. But the one part of his personality is clearly kind of assertive and authentic and leader and greatness. And then the other side seems to be kind of like manipulative and difficult, sometimes shirking responsibility, know-it-all, things like this. So, you kind of get both sides of it. You can't have one without the other with Aaron Rodgers. And maybe one of those sides is from a different planet.
That would make so much sense. All right. Last but not least, for Damon Amendolara, host, of course, of the DA Show, mornings on CBS Sports Radio, is your thoughts from your seat on the home team. Commanders over-under this year in Vegas, 6.5 wins. I think most of us here that have watched training camp and watched everything feel confident in the over, but there's also the proximity bias that is undeniable. So from your seat, over under 6.5 on Washington.
I would go over, although I think the division, again, is pretty difficult. Going to be tough to get a win against the Eagles. Going to be tough to get a win against the Cowboys. Even if you split both of those games, which would be great, if you can split with the Giants as well, it's a 3-3 division record. Maybe you can go 4-2 in a really kind of, wow, the Commanders surprised us. So that's going to be tough with those 6 games. That being said, I think the Commanders are undervalued. I think they have playmakers. I think they have a stout defense. I think they're underrated, so they're not going to have a target on their back every single week. We have to see how the Bieniemy offense works. We have to see how the Howell experiment works. We have to see how a young quarterback with Bieniemy works. That being said, I think they're undervalued. I think this is more like an 8-win team than it is a 6-win team.
Yeah, that's where I sit, is kind of in that same range as well. Obviously, we'll see starting Sunday with Arizona at FedEx Field. Damon Amendolara, morning, CBS Sports Radio. And then are you back on Sundays as well? Do we got morning football? What's the plan here?
Yes, we do. Sunday morning football returns this week. We react to week 2 of the college football season and preview kickoff weekend in the NFL. So that's 10 a.m. Eastern time on CBS Sports Radio affiliates or on the free Odyssey app.
Yes, on the free Odyssey app. Did you hear that, all of corporate? The free Odyssey app. All right, your Venmo's in the Venmo mail, and hopefully we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you.
Thanks, man. And you could also send me that in Odyssey coins as well.
Right. Correct. Maybe I'll do that. All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks, man.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980.
here in just a few minutes. The Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app on YouTube, where you're seeing Anthony sing his heart out at the Team 980. Bunch of highlights up already on my page at Craig Hoffman, so you can check out stuff there. There'll be more stuff posted throughout the weekend if you missed parts of the show, including our interview with Adam Amin, play-by-play man from Fox, who'll be on the call on Sunday. Our open today I thought was a good segment. Put that up. It's already up on YouTube as well at Craig Hoffman. All right, business and then fun, Anthony. Business, time to pick the game. Commanders favored, and their home opener, season opener this weekend. Cardinals, Commanders, who you got?
What is the line?
I should have known you were going to ask that.
Really, I don't even need that. I really just need the total. I'm curious.
You're curious. All right. Well, let's see if we can scratch your itch of curiosity. As I frantically, in a time when we don't really have that much time.
Okay, I'm going to just tell you,
this.
I'm going with the Commanders. I think it's going to be at least a 2-score win. So I'm going to go with the Commanders. I think we go out there and put up 30 points, and I think we'll hold the Cardinals to 13.
Well, then you'll want to take the over. Washington favored by 7. The total is just 38.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll put up 30. But they might. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm thinking we do, man.
The most important thing, Commanders win.
Yes.
I'll go 24-14. Which would put it right on 38.
Yeah. You're not playing fair.
Yeah. I didn't do that on purpose. I just realized it after I did it.
So you think the Cardinals score 2 touchdowns?
Weird stuff happens, man. It's the NFL.
You're right. They might get a kick return.
Pros. They're pros.
You're knock on wood.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Win-win. We'll see what happens on Monday. We'll talk about it 1st and 10 to start the show right at 4 o'clock. So do not be late. And, of course, never miss the end of the show because we got good stuff. Real things real people said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, we start with the one newsy item, then we got 2 really funny ones. USA Basketball lost in the FIBA World Cup today. Semifinals, they're out. They'll play Canada for the bronze this weekend. Steve Kerr, the coach, what had happened?
You know, it means the game has, been globalized over the last 30 years or so. And, these games are difficult. This is not 1992 anymore. And so players are better all over the world. Teams are better. And it's not easy to win a World Cup or an Olympic Games.
This is true, but you want to know the biggest difference between 1992 and this team? 1992 had a bunch of Hall of Famers, and this team didn't. They might have a couple. I mean, Anthony Edwards is really good. Tyrese Halliburton's got a shot. Like, there's some young players that are really good. But also, I don't think Kerr did a good job. I mean, you got Walker Kessler on the bench, one of the best young defenders in the league, while Jaren Jackson is out there not doing enough at the 5 defensively. And you give up 113 points. It's the most the U.S. has ever given up in an international competition. So they just didn't defend. They didn't deserve to win. They didn't. And, they still were the best team talent-wise in the tournament. And thus, there's other issues at play there. And I think the player usage was one of them. Okay, on a much less serious note, last night, Aryna Sabalenka makes the U.S. Open final, the Belarusian player. And here's how it sounded on Belarusian television.
0-6! 7-6! 7-6! Арина Соболенко вырывает этот матч! Отыгралась 3-5! Боже, через что она прошла? Какую встречу вырвала! Ваму! Фантастический матч! Фантастический! Кто писал в комментариях, что Арина недостойна звания первой ракетки мира?
Yeah.
Получите! Распишитесь!
Oh, yeah.
Rising up! Back on the street! Did my time, took my chances! When the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times it happens too fast.
Oh, keep
you
going.
change your passion for glory. Don't lose a grip on the dreams of the past. You must fight just to keep them alive. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the night. Rising up to the challenge of a rival. And they lost, no survival. Все, ребята, я сдулся.
10 out of 10. No notes. You're welcome. We'll see you on Monday.
The Team 980 is always live on the free Odyssey app.
That dude had me.